everybody. Welcome to the regular monthly board meeting of the Lake City Development Corporation for March 2015. Let's rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead us today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Public comment. We don't have many. Frank, you don't have anything to say to us today? Okay.
Pretty small audience.
It is a small audience today. Approval of minutes for the February 18, 2015 board meeting. Chair, we entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Move and second to approve the minutes of February 18, 2015. Any questions, comments, or corrections to those minutes? Scott.
Just a little comment. I looked, again, carefully to try to find an issue. They're always done so well that Tony is to be applauded for that. So thanks.
They're pretty thorough.
Yep.
Very well done.
Thank you, Tony.
You bet.
Any other comments? That's a good one. Oh, see none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next committee reports, Finance Committee. Commissioner Caldwell.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll start with the Lake District if we could first and go to the balance sheet. You'll see in both districts quite a bit of activity in the form of payments that we make this time of year. So we'll start with the balance sheet, and we did have a decrease in cash in the balance sheet of roughly $950,000 last month, and that has to do with numerous payments, which I'll detail in a moment, semi-annual obligations, and we did pay off a Midtown loan. No other real changes in the assets of any significance. But I would like to mention that we did decrease our reserve amount on the Washington Trust bond by $369,882, and that was a result of us making a payment of $370,000. We also had principal payments with the ice plant of $18,439, the chamber office of $1,394, and then the lofts of $2,720. If you look at the liabilities, you'll see that we have a decrease, which is much larger than usual. It's $1,239,575. That was a result of the payoff of the Midtown note of $371,386, a Lake District bond payment of $860,039, and then other of $8,150. We also had principal payments on some of our tax increment type obligations. Ice plant, $18,439, chamber, $1,394, and the lofts, $2,720. So you have the offset on the asset, you have the offset on the liability when we make those payments. If you go to the profit and loss for the district, you will see that we had tax increment income of $216,770. We received rent income of $11,363, interest income of $118, security deposits $433, so a total of $228,684. So quite a bit of activity in the month as far as funds that came in. And then you go down a little bit further, and you'll see on the expense side that we did have the principal payments that I mentioned. It's about two-thirds way down the page where it says tax and increment payment. $22,533 in principal payments, and then you go down towards the end, the very bottom, you'll see $204,368 in interest payments. So quite a bit of activity. As you recall, some of our obligations end up being principal only once we get to that point because we cap the interest. Any questions on that before we go to the River District? If not, let's start with the balance sheet again on the River District. The River District had a reduction in cash, but much less than it did at the Lake District. The decrease was $102,876, and no other activity as far as the assets of any significance or the liability. But if you go to the profit and loss, that's where you can see most of the activity. On the profit and loss, we did have tax increment revenue received of $57,443. We had interest income of $310 for a total of $57,753. Then if you go to the expenses, you'll go down there to the bottom, and you'll see that we had significant interest expenses of $145,726, and that represents interest payments on Riverstone West, Phase 1, Riverstone West, Phase 2, Riverstone West Apartments, and also Mill River Senior Apartments. So nothing to principal on those during the month, all interest payments. And as I mentioned earlier, once we get to a certain cap on some of those, then the money goes to principal. So quite a bit of activity as far as us paying on our obligations during the month in both districts, and certainly planned payments that we knew were coming up this time of year. Any questions on the profit and loss for the River District? If not, let's go ahead and look at the payables. I think Tony's passing those out. The payables for the month are smaller than usual and didn't have any significant large ones. Elam and Burke, $71.50 for their work. Holly Troxel, legal counsel, and they've been spending quite a bit of time on the Burlington Northern's railroad acquisition. So the total bill for that is $3,084. Our government relations firm, Molitor and Associates, $1,900.70. I'm going to say what this is, and we'll come back to it. The Think Big Festival, $2,000, and then the Range Northwest Inc. of $1,761.25, and that's the work for our video and our communication strategy that I'm sure Dave will talk about later. Going back up to the Think Big Festival, recommending approval for that. We did spend the same amount a year ago to help this project, and we would like to do that again. And I think you may recall that Nick Smoot had talked to us about what they were doing, and so the finance company has recommended that we contribute the same amount. And Tony, you might add some color or flavor to that.
I sent you around an email kind of with the PDF that Nick is promoting the Think Big Festival with the kind of ideas of an agenda, location. So they're trying to expand what they did last year, make it bigger and better. They're going to have it at the resort this year versus over at North Idaho College. They're bringing in more guest speakers, and they're trying to get a bigger audience. So he's pretty excited about it. Thinks it'll be a bigger and better event. Put Coeur d'Alene more on the map on the robotics side and the technology side. So he's hoping that Lcdc will consider being a sponsor once again. And last year we contributed $2,000 to that.
Okay.
I think that's an excellent value for $2,000 when you look at how these are the who's who in the high-tech industry that it introduces our city to, so I fully support it.
There were some successes last year, too, in terms of startups and entrepreneurs. There's, I think, aircraft parts 3D printing operation that actually is, I think they have something going with Boeing now. So there's, it's good stuff. It's good percolation of activity.
Yep. So just by approving the payables, we approve that, right? Okay.
Correct.
So I'd make a motion for approval if we're ready for a motion.
Second. For the payables and the
To
financials.
approve the
Yeah, we needed the
financials and the payables, is that right?
Okay, and the financials and the payables.
Been moved and second to approve the financials and the payables for the month. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Well done.
Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rod. That takes us to the Housing Committee. And Commissioner Goodlander's gone. I don't know whether you have anything in her stead. Tony?
No, I do not. Commissioner Goodlander did not have a report to share.
Okay. Parking Committee, Commissioner Jordan.
I don't have any report or update, Mr. Chairman. I think we have another meeting in April, so I'll probably have an update at the next meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Dave, Communications Committee.
I don't have a whole bunch. We're continuing to work on the educational initiatives that we've started with Range and pursuing a variety of ideas there. There'll be more to come in the not-too-distant future.
All right.
So that's all I've got.
Any questions of Dave? Jobs Committee.
I do not have a report today.
Still no report. I did hear that the actually the
NIC did get approval
Appropriation.
for the joint use building. That is correct. It's been approved through JFAC.
hasn't been voted on in the
It's
House
been
or the
voted
Senate
on.
yet.
No,
Yeah.
so it's been approved through, the funding has been approved through JFAC. So it's still moving through the process, but that is the first step.
Okay. Very good.
They actually cut that budget pretty substantially, so it's one of 3 projects that got spared being cut out completely.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the revenue streams for permanent buildings in the state has just been on a downward trend because a lot of it used to come, it probably still does, from alcohol and cigarette taxes, and at least one of those is significantly decreased, and there just hasn't been a lot of extra revenue to dump into it. So we're fortunate to get that appropriation if it comes through. Any other questions of Mick? We're going to finish in record time if we don't slow down. Executive Director's report. Tony.
Just really one item, or no, couple items, Mr. Chairman. The first one is a second supplement to the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Real Estate Purchase and Sale Agreement that extends the closing date to May 28th, 2015. I sent you this one-pager around. You kind of looked at it. It's pretty straightforward. City Council voted last night to approve the extension on their behalf. This just gives us more time to do due diligence work on the environmental side as well as to continue work on the title side. So within that time frame, I think our review period for environmental extends to May 21st, and then closing is pushed off till May 28th. So pretty straightforward extension.
Need a motion?
Yes.
Just have a question for you, Tony. If they do the research and there's a problem with parts of it, contamination, et cetera, will the railroad pay to have that cleaned up, or do we know?
Probably really not. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So we or the city or a combination thereof would need to clean it up if we decide to move forward.
If we decide to buy, we would buy knowingly some concerns, right?
Sure. Okay. That's what I thought.
This truly is buy at your own risk like the old days, isn't it, when you deal with the railroad?
We're buying as is or not.
As is or not.
Or isn't. As it isn't.
Okay.
Well, I move to extend the Burlington Northern Real Estate Purchase and Sale Agreement to May 28, 2015.
That's a resolution, so that takes a roll call.
Actually, it's not a resolution.
Oh, it isn't?
Change it on the agenda. It's just a motion.
Okay, so any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries as well.
Second item for me, Mr. Chairman, is just an update on the Four Corner project. We had a very successful second open house on February 25th. It was well attended, and the next step is that the Four Corner planning team wants to present kind of a close to final master plan idea or template to a joint meeting of the Lcdc board and the city's Parks and Recs Commission, and we tentatively have that set up for April 15th at our next board meeting. So that would be part of our agenda item, is to include Parks and Rec in as a joint meeting, and then we'll conduct our board meeting thereafter. So we can look forward to that, and Welch Comer will do the presentation to bring everybody up to speed, and then the next phase would be to move it to City Council.
That's April 15th.
Sorry?
April 15th, you said?
Yes, April 15th. Tax Day. Very appropriate. Commissioner Pastor, anything else to add on that front?
No, just I think at the open house that was here, there had to be 140, 150 people. I mean, it was standing room only. It was amazing. And a lot of good input, a lot of people engaged. So I'm interested to see what Welch Comer has to do with their input that they've received from that, and a few modifications. So it'll be a pretty in-depth, and I encourage everybody in the television audience to tune in, because that'll be kind of the first televised run-through of what's proposed to present to BNSF for the use of their property down there.
BLM?
BLM also.
Excuse me, BLM.
Plus some additional property to the south,
Correct.
because there's more than just the railroad, or the BLM rather.
BNSF, no, BLM.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions of Tony? Thanks for that, Tony. So next item is commissioner comments. Any just general comments from the board? Public comment? None? I see none out there. Thank you, Frank. That takes us to a motion for executive session under subsection C of Idaho Code Section 672345 sub 1 in order to conduct deliberations concerning labor negotiation and to acquire an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Caldwell,
Aye.
Harmon,
Aye.
Patzer,
Yes.
Davis,
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Yes.
Hoskins.
Motion carries.
Wow, that's
16-minute meeting?
Yeah.
It would be a record.
Yeah.